5, 6.
Welcome back to Pasture Pioneers. In this new series, we're walking you through how to successfully raise broilers on pasture. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest. We have tried many of the different meat bird breeds and we've settled on the White Rangers. We didn't have a great experience with the Cornish Cross, and the Red Rangers take a couple weeks longer to grow out. The White Rangers seem to be this really nice in-between for us.
So we have got chicks coming here in a day or two, and what we've found that works really well for us is here in our garage we've got space where I normally store wood in the wintertime for our wood stove, but it works really well for chicks because it's indoors. If you're going to have young chicks, you don't want to have any like large amounts of airflow like outside or something. So we keep them inside here for 2 to 3 weeks, just depending on how the weather is. If it warms up enough, we'll put them out by 2 weeks on pasture. But we're going to share some tips that we've learned along the way to really get our chicks off to a really healthy start. And our chicks survive really well unless there's an issue with them being delivered. We had some issues with them where they were transported by a plane and it got really cold and we had a bunch die that way. But generally we can get them to survive really well. If they arrive to us in good health, we can normally a really low death rate. Okay. So what I've got here is just some sawdust, which is our preferred method of putting down. So what we like to do is we like to put sawdust down, and then I don't take that sawdust out again until they're done. But what I do is I add on top. So this is going to end up building up to probably 6 to 8 inches as I continue to put sawdust on top. But what that does is it creates deep bedding and it actually starts to decompose. But it's not like an unpleasant odor. So once you're in a week or two and you put your hand down inside, you actually feel it's actually warming up. So there's actually warmth coming from the bottom up, which is really good for young chicks. It's just something we've started doing and we really like how it works out for us. So the things you want to have ready before your chicks arrive is obviously some type of a brooder set up for them. In the beginning, it can be relatively small, but they're going to grow, so you do have to think about how that's going to, the space that they're going to need. So for this is actually probably the biggest that we have made it, but in the past we've barely had enough space. We're getting 100 chicks, and this is probably about a 6 by 6 area, which should be enough room for them. By the time they're 2 or 3 weeks old, they're going to start to feel a little cramped, but we should be able to make this work. You're going to want to have a heat lamp or whatever heat you're using. Use caution if you're using a heat lamp. There is a fire risk. A thermometer. You definitely want to have a thermometer and be able to monitor that temperature. There is a book that I recommend by Joel Salatin. It's called Pastured Poultry Profits. And in that book, he actually has a chart about the temperatures that you should have your chicks at in order to get them accustomed to having them outside on pasture. They actually can tolerate colder temperatures sooner than you would think. I'd have to look at the chart again, but I think by 2 to 3 weeks old, they can actually withstand down to freezing temps. So obviously you want to have some type of a pen or some type of a brooder set up with heat, food, and water. And ideally, you need to get this set up before they arrive so that you don't have to scramble to get something set up. And you can even do a test run of turning it on 24 hours ahead of time so that you know everything works right, everything functions, and that way the chances of your chicks surviving are a lot higher.
When your chicks arrive, you do need to give them water right away. Tip their beak into the water and they'll automatically take a drink. They'll find their food on their own. You also need to remember that they've had a stressful journey. So the name of the first 48 to 72 hours is close observation. We had 104 chicks, all safe and sound for a week, and then we unexpectedly lost one after filming to unknown circumstances. When they were around a week old, we had a lot of storms pass through our area and we ended up without power for a couple of days. This chick didn't die until several days after we regained power, so we aren't entirely sure why it didn't make it.
So these chicks are now not quite two weeks old, and we have so far have not had any losses, which has been better than we've ever had. But we had about a week ago, or when they were about a week old, our power went out, and thankfully the temperatures weren't too bad, so I just kept an eye on them. And it did get a little bit cooler than what I wanted for them, but I also just observed them, make sure that they weren't all piling on top of each other for heat. And they actually did really well. And from that point on, I just took the heat lamp away because we are inside here and it stays relatively warm. So some of the things that we did when we got them, we have a number of times we have added grass in here, and even grass with dirt attached to it. And there's some added benefits to doing that. They get familiar with the grass. They're going to be out on pasture, and it gives them something to do, peck through it, and it's beneficial for their health. So yesterday when we brought some grass in here, there was actually some little ants in it, and I didn't realize it until I saw them in there, and they were pecking around, and they were actually going after the ants. So one of the things you want to keep in mind with using this type of bedding is to just smell it every once in a while. And if it has like a musty smell or it just has like a foul odor, you probably don't have enough sawdust. And yesterday I actually put in a pretty heavy layer, and they're getting to the point now where I have to every day add quite a bit. Like when I walked in here this morning, I could just tell it just had a little bit of an odor to it. So we're going to add some more sawdust in here. So normally we'll put them on pasture. Depending on the temperatures, I normally try to get them out between 2 and 3 weeks old. The sooner I can, the better, but that also is influenced by weather. If I see that we're going to get a lot of rain, I'll hold them off, rain or lower temperatures. And ideally, our temperatures are going to be below 40 at night. And these are probably going to be closer to 3 weeks once we get them out, just because we have some circumstances where we won't be able to monitor them too well on pasture. But I normally try to get them out by 3 weeks old. So this is our first year using this style of waterer. I've used like a Little Giant self-watering system before, and it just tends to plug up a lot. And this is a Plasson Bell water, and I've heard a lot of good reviews on it. It's a little bit more pricey, but so far I really like it. So I actually got 2 of them. One is in our chicken house and one is here. And I'll actually move this. I'm going to move this out into the chicken tractor when we have them on pasture, and this is going to water them as well. But basically, this is just a gravity-fed system. This tube just goes up into a bucket, and it'll work exactly the same way on our chicken tractor. You just have a hole, just a snug hole that you put it into, and your bucket is on the outside of the chicken tractor, and that way it allows you an easy way to fill it up. But it works really well. It's easy to keep clean. You can adjust the height of the water inside that trough there. So stay tuned for this series. We're going to be filming this real time as we continue to put them out on pasture, the different things that we do along with that. And then we're also going to have like an overall, basically a how to raise your chicks on pasture. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below and we will try to address those. Thanks for watching.